Welcome to Pyramid One World Radio Network. You can call in and talk to our hosts by dialing 60547257666, then dial the access code 60860 hash, and you're ready to be part of a worldwide movement to educate everyone listening to these shows. Let's begin dialing.
This is a Pyramid One International Network presentation. Good evening, and welcome to Pyramid One Radio. Your soul is an energy. Catch it. Nurture it. Love it. This is the now. Believe in the universe and say, I am. Let me tell you a little bit about the guest coming up. Actually the host, actually a friend, actually a mentor. His name is Jamie Clarke, a person who is here to help the world. He was born in Ohio. Jamie had early signs in life that he would someday be helping people with his remarkable talents. As a child, he was concerned about being different from others. With that, he was going on in his mind. Through years of studying and a series of profound revelations, Jamie discovered that he had the gift of psychic intuition and could also communicate messages and feelings between people living and those who have left this physical plane of existence. In other words, he can communicate with those who we have loved and lost. Now, with thousands of powerful connections made worldwide and years of experience as his guide, Jamie offers this healing phenomenon to those who need it most. People searching for life, direction, and guidance, as well as those seeking answers and closure from family and friends that have passed. However, you can become fearless. Being in control of your destination has an empowerment. Our mind, ourselves, has the ability to create a future, good or bad, by having a read or attending one of Jamie's sessions. Not only can you understand where you are headed, but you can reprogram your future. And my favorite, to be yours. What's next? I say this all the time on the show. Jamie said it all the time on the show. Something that we believe in. Something that you should believe in. It's called unconditional love. Let me tell you some more. Unconditional love is a behavior and a feeling towards someone. Jamie says he's taught many the techniques of how to take action. Once you achieve unconditional love, your world, your whole world, will change in many, many wonderful ways. May I introduce to you, to the world, to the universe, a friend and a mentor, Mr. Jamie Clarke. Oh, yeah. Jamie is here. The man is here.
Oh, God, I'm looking forward to this, and things are just getting even better. And it's really, I think, becoming a lot more insightful. And when we can have fun doing this and share some insight, that's power. That's huge. And today we have a great guest who's a good friend of mine, and he is the creator and producer of the documentary series Life to Afterlife. And he has done many other movies, but he's gotten into this direction beautifully and very powerfully. And he has a number of episodes that have already been completed, and he's working on a number of other ones, which I think is really going to be a great series of empowerment and so many different perspectives to share with humanity to bring that awareness. Everything is spiritual. Let's do this. And may I introduce Clarke McMahon. Clarke.
Hey, guys.
Hey, brother, good to see you. And those glasses earlier look good on you, man. I like that.
Oh, these? Yeah. That's so I can see up close. Nice to meet you, Bob.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I went through all of your trailers and everything else and I'm saying to myself, Jamie knows what I'm going to say after this. It's like, wow, somebody got it. It's like, if you've been on the other side, you come back and you can talk about it. And I've talked about it with Jamie a million times because, I had done this. And then I saw all your trailers and I'm saying, somebody actually, got it. It's like, hey, they know.
Well, not only that, yeah, the way that Clarke is doing this, he's bringing on other experts, other people in the field to share many different perspectives of the same subject. And what's really cool is we seem to have been vibing pretty close to all of this as a unified oneness. Like, wow, this is awesome. And so, Clarke, we work together, and I love working with you because you're fun and you're very talented, and I appreciate that. What got you into doing this series, this documentary series of Life to Afterlife?
Well, I had a brother that died in a car accident, and then I had another brother that committed suicide, and then my mom had opened up a hypnosis institute in Chicago, to help people because she was curious about what's going on here. And then both parents passed away, so I've got a lot of people on the other side. In my early age, up until about 21, I was meditating all the time. There was one point where I was meditating 6 hours a day. I was really checking out almost. And I had a profound voice come to me and say, "Hey, what are you so interested in the afterlife for? You're gonna see it in about a minute." And I was like, "Oh, wait a second. Does that mean I'm gonna die?" So for years I thought I was gonna die, and that didn't happen. But now I understand what they meant. They meant that it's just
Is that crazy? And literally living each day as if it's your last, like, holy, what the flag knock? Oh, God. And great that you got understanding, because I would be feeling the same way you did going, does that mean I'm going to check out real soon or what?
Yeah.
And I think in being able to do this, and the first series, the first episode is Life to Afterlife, Mom, Can You Hear Me? And this is connected to a fantastic organization that is helping parents heal, parents who have lost children. And it's a great organization. I'm very honored to be a part of it and to be able to present to guests as well. For this, what got you interested in first episode, helping the parents to heal? What was going on with that?
Well, I've known Mark Ireland, and he's the son of the great Richard Ireland. And, he's not a psychic and all, but he actually lost a son. And so he went through a profound grief period and everything like that. And he said, I put this foundation together with Elizabeth Boyson. It's helping parents heal. It's a little bit different than your normal foundations or groups of people that get together about grieving kids. They allow spiritual communication, talk about it. And they actually have a bunch of psychic mediums that they have that Mark actually tests them out to make sure, because there's some charlatans out there, and these people are very sacred to Mark and Elizabeth. So I went to one of their meetings, and I was like, no way. Everybody was, teary-eyed. They were ruined, and I was like, I can't do a documentary on this. This is just too. And then Elizabeth took me aside. She said, no. There's some veterans in the group. And I said, well, what do you mean, veterans? She said, there's some, the ones that have gone through this actually have experienced joy and are able to continue with their life. And I was like, okay, that's cool. And she said, but most of them are talking to their kids. And I went, okay, that's pretty neat. I'm on. So I met 17 parents. Actually, there was a bigger list, but I had to, at some point I had to say, hey, that's enough. It was actually too many. But I had I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what I had to ask them. So I just put it out there to my spirit guide, say, hey, guide me through this and give me all the questions. And they did. They gave me some great questions. And, I learned a lot from them.
Well, not only that, was there a contributing factor in some way that you losing two brothers, the children of your parents, was there some kind of a bridge that maybe in some way might have given you a little bit of a healing from the potential seemingly separation, and that now they're all together in a great place? You're still here spinning the wheels of consciousness, man. With you like me, you're the last of the Mohicans. But in that, has that brought you any healing or a different perspective about your circumstances with your brother and with your parents? Do you now realize what they went through emotionally, mentally, all of those kinds of things by helping out this organization of all of these different great kids and parents?
Well, let's see. It actually, I kind of already knew that my brother that got killed in the car accident, I knew he was in the afterworld, and I knew my other brother was too. And then both parents had passed, and I've had a lot of things happen, so I already knew they were there. But I learned a lot more about. Let me give you an example. My wife and I, we went to an event. It was a dinner event with just the parents, the veterans that had gone through the documentary. And I just said to my wife, I go, these people are happier than any other group I've ever been to. And they're not talking about their Ferraris, or they're not trying to one-up each other with their Prada bags. They didn't care about any of that. I mean, it was just like, I've never seen a group of people that actually unconditionally loved each other. They had empathy towards each other. I was just like, that was the part that really took me off guard. They're different people. And the other thing that was interesting was all those kids were very special kids. They were the kind of kid that would just go up and grab a kid and hug him because he was having a hard day at school. Let me tell you something. They didn't do that in my school. These kids were different. And it takes a loving soul, to depart before their parents do. It takes a special soul.
And that's a powerful learning experience. You know that. In addition, I heard that you might have had a lot of the kids hanging around as you were doing these interviews. Can you share any of the experiences or what you received in some way?
Yeah, the most profound one was this kid was about 22. I mean, he was a model. He was, he had Adidas, all these companies all over him. He was just a gorgeous model. And then he got, I forget what the name of this disorder is. I can never pronounce it. Anyway, he gained 200 pounds. He became cross-eyed, and he hid in his room and he wouldn't leave. And so when I told the mother, I said, hey, we're doing this documentary. I'm going to need some photos, of Derek. And she said, sure. So she gave me all these photos, and some were when he was a model and some were when he was not so good looking. So when I went to scan him in, he wouldn't let me scan in any of the bad looking ones. I got a new scanner just to make sure, but he would not let me. And I said, hey, dude, Derek, look, I'm doing a documentary. The viewers need to understand this. Let me have one. And he let me have one. He jammed up my computer, blue screen the whole thing.
Wow.
I don't know how they do this stuff, but but it does happen. I could feel them all around me because all that. I'm pretty sensitive to all this stuff. Then I had another kid. He committed suicide, and he has a foundation, and he put his foundation as a screensaver on my phone, so I had to take it off. There was another one too. It just goes on, but they were always around, and they were guiding me. They were helping me out along with my spirit guides. Were helping me with the editing, and it was a very long documentary. I normally don't make a 2.5 hour documentary, but I just felt like everything they had to say was so important. And they, trust me, I had 60 hours of footage to put down to 2.5 hours. But so out of respect, I wanted to make sure that they all could tell their story. But one of my questions was, when did you first experience happiness? And they said, our culture just doesn't really want you to be happy because then you didn't love your kid, kind of thing. And then when did they experience joy? And and it went on and on and on. And that's what I learned. These are different people. They've been changed profoundly.
And everyone changes that whole perception and your soul. That vibration and that connection is huge. And I had something similar along the lines of you. When I was doing a presentation for Helping Parents Heal, I had finished what I was doing, and they had all finished lunch, all the guests. So I was out there with another person, and we were alone. That was it. There was no one else at the 10 tables. Well, as I'm talking with this person, all of a sudden in my mind sight, their kids, the children, whoop, filled in all of the chairs and the tables. They were all vibing with each other, helping each other with the parents and how to get connected to the psychic. I'm like, that's powerful. Not only that, look at the ability of that spirituality and quantum physics, now spiritual physics. They're able to work with technology, and beep, you're not going to publish that one. Yeah, go ahead, keep getting a new one, 30 of them, and doesn't matter. Like, but not only that, look, kind of like I always say, like we have an IP address on the internet web, we have an SP address, a soul address on the universal web. But to me, for them to be able to manipulate technology in this way, one, they've got to be connected in a unified way to even vibe with this reality. You got to kind of slow your energy down because this slow, sloppy third dimension is very different. Within that, and with doing these interviews, Craig, did you feel like you got a little bit more sensitive? Because I know that you are very intuitive, but did it amp you up in some way? Were you making stronger connections with the kids because of the emotional connection to the parents?
Well, when the kids would pop in, I could feel them, and I started to pay attention to what was that feeling like? How did they come in? And then it started to happen more and more. And now, even when I interview people, I have their loved ones kind of, some of the mediums, it's just like, all kinds of stuff happening. And I'm like, are you doing this? Because what is this? So it really has made me, and I'm not really interested in being a medium, I'm interested in learning as much as I can and trying to bring that to the public and let the public figure all this stuff out. I'm just the information guy.
Well, and you're a great information guy and a lot of fun to work with. I appreciate all that you're doing. That's powerful. If we can do in any way to help others to help themselves, that's beautiful. And with those types of circumstances, it'll change your whole life. Now, in getting that beautiful connection in that 2.5 hour documentary, because it was very well done and a lot of great sharing, what was the next episode?
The next one was, actually, that was supposed to be the first one, was I had, 60 questions to ask about what happens when we die. What's the first thing that happens? And, not necessarily like, hovering over the bed, yada, 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 going through the tunnel. Just a little bit more of like, what's the afterworld like? So I figured what better way to interview a bunch of the top leading spiritual experts and bestseller book people and get in their heads. And I mean, they talk with dead people all the time. And I found a real parallel answer. So it was a really nice thread because you'd ask a question and each one of them would sort of answer it, slightly different, but pretty much the same thing.
which is great, you know, and I found that the spiritual experiences are different than the psychic experiences. To me, the spiritual, most people say the same thing. It's unconditional love. My body, my soul feels amazing. It's all a consistent vibration. The psychic read of the experiences tends to become more of a limited, because whoever the psychic is, if they're doing the psychic read, they're coming from their own individualized awareness and trying to find potentially how to fit that in. The rest of it is just always there to go, let me just describe it. Here it is. In doing that, did you find any other insight for you in talking to the psychic mediums that might have given you a little bit of a different perspective about your brother who took his own life?
Well, you know, I think when you have one that's killed in a car accident and another one takes his life, our culture tends to view it, you know, very differently. You know, I remember when my brother was killed in a car accident, there was this cars after cars behind us in the funeral procession. And then when my other brother committed suicide, there was just like, you know, what a jerk. You know, how selfish is he? He left 2 kids behind. Wow, that was really selfish. You know, why didn't he just stick it out? But the bottom line came to me was, it doesn't really matter to me the exit point. It's the experience and what, you know, what were they both doing? You know, I don't know. So as far as the mediums, I pretty much knew a lot of the stuff that they were talking about. I pretty much knew all the answers to the questions. I just wanted to present it so it was kind of like a layman's kind of thing. The 101, we die, where do we go, what's heaven like, you know? And then we delved into some deeper stuff. But for the most part, it's a pretty light 101 course, I'd say.
But very informative, man. A lot of great energy and a lot of great information. Now, in addition, you know, for myself, I just like to share this with people that, just like you, Craig, I'm understanding that a lot of society does not look upon taking your own life as a productive. And they tend to go, well, I hope they're okay. I hope everything's. And my thing is, if they're coming through to me in any way, they are only on the good channel, or I do not exist. And I always like to share the act of taking your own life and how life experience only holds the value you place upon it. And what I mean by that is the act of taking your own life is not always a good thing, for it can certainly be devastating for us here to pick up the pieces and keep going. However, the act of taking your own life is only the experience, only the catalyst to get you to the other side. And just like you say, Craig, I'm right there with you. Because to me, if the act of taking your own life is always a bad thing, and that means you're a bad person, my response is, wow, then I guess the person who jumps on that grenade to save the entire platoon is a bad person. Huh? Are you kidding me? For me, I would have respect, appreciation, and gratitude for that person who did the exact, not kind of, the exact action. Yet on one end of the spectrum, they're a hero. On the other end, they're a zero. I will guarantee you, as sure as you're sitting here, no judgment ever on the universe's part. Completely loving and accepted. And for me, when I have my experiences of unification, in a great way, there is no separation between anything. Everything is already interconnected. And every time I get out of my body, my soul is full. It's like the best mood you've ever been in, the best meal you have ever had. Effortlessly, it's just there. No judgment, complete acceptance, and the words that come to me each and every time, who are you now? Oh, I'm like, dang. Because to me, we only live one life, an eternal life. But each life is a minute in the hour, hour in the day. And that experience is what we put into our Solodex of oneness. It adds to everything. And, you know, when we all have our own individualized experiences, sometimes you're like, man, is anyone else experiencing this? Because it's a little lonely and I don't have a freaking clue. And then we got a lot of times got to deal with it on our own. That's why I have a more appreciation for you, Craig. And what you're doing is you're getting people an opportunity to not feel so alone, to have some insight and possibly information to realize, okay, it is love and there is connection. And those circumstances have also empowered me to live my life possibly a little bit more effectively. Because for me, no longer do I live each day as if it's my last. I live it like it's my first. Well, I'm going to go freaking burn out. And when's it over? I'm like, here we go. because for you, Craig, being shared with that to go, hey, it could add that quick. After years, you, of course, being aware of the potential, when were you able to kind of release that potential that each day could be it? Or did you?
I'm sorry. Can you run the question by? When was what?
Because here it is and I let it go.
He's fast. He's really, really fast.
God, yes. Thank you, Bob. You know that.
You're
But
welcome.
in this capacity, Bob, what was I just sharing? Do you remember?
Uh,
There's a fine line between this and Allsies, man. I'm like, God, I got to reel myself back in. But after the act of taking your own life and those experiences for you and being able to help people not feel so alone, has that also given you an opportunity or dynamic to maybe create other episodes in connection with that? Are you being guided and led by your guides as well through this venue of awareness?
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, I'm not really having to do anything now, to be honest with you. I already got the next one. I start filming in a couple of weeks. Another one. I just finished another one, and then I'm already the people for the animals one. I'm doing that one. All the people that are coming together for that healing. I want to really, but I have to, you have to you got to give the universe time, to get the right stuff, because I put the prerequisite out there. I said, make sure you get me quality stuff, and what can I say without saying a word? No baloney, just
Right.
real truth.
And practical.
Truth, yeah, truth, practicality, layman's terms, and they just all start coming to you. And I know, Bob, you had said that, finally somebody's starting to do this stuff, but I came from a different background, where, it would have been really easy for me to go into the dark side. A lot of these TV shows right now are dealing with a lot of the dark stuff. And I was like, wait a second, what about all the good stuff?
No.
Why are we focusing on all this negative, the demon and hauntings and, all this stuff? And, I was like, what about all the good stuff? And it just doesn't sell. That's the thing. So I knew I was going to have some trouble with getting it into Amazon.
That is why yours is a documentary as opposed to a movie. It's not fiction. It's
right.
real. It's 100%. Everything else is 50-50. Well,
exactly.
True, but the other guy in that hug his neighbor in a tree by wiggling his nose. It's your stuff and the things that I saw so far, and that every single thing there, I was like, was like, wow, this is, Jamie, honest to God. When Jamie gave me your name, and I said, wait a minute, I know this name. So I started zipping all over the place then, and I come up with this stuff, and I was calling my media director, Diane, quick, get over here. You got to see this.
Nice.
So I'm serious. I mean, I was sending it out to people saying, hey, this guy's going to be on the show on Tuesday. You got to see this.
Well, Amazon has 4,000 documentaries. 4,000. Right now, the Medium's one that Jamie's in is at number 7.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So there are people that are interested in this stuff. There is. So I think they're watching it quite a bit. Go ahead, Jamie.
Presentation, is a lot of what this is. I mean, the presentation of it is so true. There's no frills.
Yes.
People are used to like all kinds of BS and everything else, and they're flowing all over the place. Like a commercial on a 30-second shot on TV, and like, you got to see this movie because it'll put you into your chair. And it's like yours has none of the above. That's what makes people want to look at it even more, because they're looking for, the fringes, but they're not there. All it is word for word truth.
Well, that's what I wanted. I wanted people to kind of come into the living room.
Mm-hmm.
And talk. Let's have a conversation. If it's an argument, let's have an argument. But let's talk about it. High quality living room discussions about this stuff.
And I think when you can do that and put the practicality of spirituality to go, okay, so I don't have to meditate for 80 hours a day to make my connection. Uh, and I think when you put that, just like you've done so far with the documentary, Craig, you brought a really good, solid base to build upon. Not only that, for myself, I've done a number of scientific studies where we have now scientifically, quantifiably validated that consciousness lives beyond physical death. And when we can do that and become a little bit more comfortable, because, for myself, that psychic and mediumship, that's why a lot of people go psychic medium, because they're both the same thing. The only difference to me is a psychic read is in the physical body, medium read is out of the physical body. Both have soul prints of consciousness. And once I started vibing with that, I'm like, okay, that makes sense, because the more you work on one psychic, whatever it is, the more you're increasing the other one, because you're just reading the energy for that. And that practicality, I think, adds a little bit more solidness to go, well, photon balls of light, double slit experiment, dimensional frequency merging, all of these scientific studies are now validating that this technology and spirituality are one. That's science. Are you connecting with more people, Craig, of those dynamics, like maybe some other technologies that people might be working with to make their connections to the other side?
I've been working on that myself. Getting the average person, I call it first person mediumship, kind of thing, for a lack of a better name, but it really kind of puts it into, instead of going to a medium, you actually connect. And I'm compiling how it works, and you're right, it doesn't necessarily need to have all that meditation, although that does help quiet your mind, and it does work. But I think what raises our vibration all comes back to those divine virtues. I really think that if you're having trouble connecting, and you're an angry little person, and you're selfish, and you're judgmental, there's a lot of filters on you, bro. You're not going to see much, So as you raise your vibration, overcome judgment, and start getting into empathy, compassion, unconditional love, and all these different things, you start to vibrate a little. You bridge the gap. They're way up here vibrating so high, and you're down here in this low frequency. And when you start to raise your vibration through mastering all those divine virtues, you start to get closer. So, because I know there's some people that just do not see spirit. There's just some people that just do, and you can tell them. And there's some people that are just naturally clairvoyant. But but when you get down into the psychology of them, you find out that they are unconditionally loving people. They're very compassionate. They have a great empathy. All these different virtues.
And it becomes a way of life. You just from that to go, I don't know, it's just there. It's just not only what I do, but who I am. And, like I do, when you have that passion, whatever it is, that's what speaks to people. Of course, the insight, but it's that kind of, but I also want to kind of have something that I can enjoy looking at or listening to in that way. And you do a great job with all of these episodes, Craig. So that's excellent. Bob, you did have a near-life experience, didn't you? Where you almost died?
I did.
Can you share what you experienced? What happened?
It was just like everybody talks about these tunnels and everything else. You mentioned it before, Craig. I don't remember any tunnel or anything else, or lights or flashing anything. It was like this. I was standing on a Gracie Hill. Way, 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 way in the distance, there was a tree. Now, I always call it that was my tree of life. Was on the other side. That was the tree. And it was really funny because a lot of things that you have in this life, you will pass over with you on the other side until they say eventually that you go to another step and that over. But what had happened was, Ned, after a little walk on the other side, I walked up to what looked like light, not bright light. Everybody says, "Oh, it's bright, blinding, blah blah." Baloney. It was just an area that was lit way, way better than everything else. And who do I bump into? My dad. dressed exactly the way I remembered him on the morning that he left from the afternoon that he died. So when I got back from this, and it took me about a month and then to come back. But after I did come back, I could actually explain to everybody, or at least my relatives that knew my father, and I was only 8 to 9, and that when he left and he passed away that day. But when I described what I saw, all of them were decked. They were all down. I told them exactly what they remembered him as, and they were adults. At the time that when I saw him leave, I was a kid. But now I was 20, I guess it was like 20, 27, 28, 29 in that ballpark somewhere. And here I'm telling them about something that I shouldn't remember, but described it in detail. And that person, that parent, turned around to me and he said, "You don't belong here. Your children need you." Next thing I know, it's 30 days later, and I'm waking up in a hospital. And I'm not only that, but they got me wired up to everything. I'm hungry as hell. I mean, we're talking hungry. And I got to go to the bathroom. So
now you get hangry.
So me and a nurse have to take a shot to the bathroom. That's so I can go to the bathroom. Now I've got 8, not 7, not 6, not whatever, 8 doctors, neurosurgeons. Because my head was like a clam. But all these guys that are around, and they're all saying like they couldn't believe they even got out of bed, much less spoke. So when you're on the other side, trust me when I tell you, it's a feeling like you never, ever have had in this life. Never. It's like somebody took the whole weight of everything that comes in your life off your back. It's a feeling that I can't wait to feel again. I mean, it's like, it is. I'm not going to commit suicide, so don't go. Don't start sending me the suicide number. But the idea is, it's an unbelievable field. It's light. It's love. It's joy. You know what I mean? You just feel good about everything.
Yeah. Exactly, like I say, that's full soul. But you also kind of bring up a point that I like to refer to, and that to me is each dimension holds its own vibratory rate, meaning it seems just as solid as this one. How did the other side feel? Was it all nebulous, or did it feel like it's a real reality and I can walk and touch it?
I've said this before on shows before, and I've had people that wrote me that went into the archive and listened to the shows, and so they've even heard the shows later. It felt like I was home. Now, there's a feeling that you don't feel. You ever like go out anywhere and that? Come on, Craig, you must take tours and stuff. I mean, I toured all my life I was the lead singer in a big band. I toured all over the world. When I came home was a feeling like you have never had before. It's like, it's like one of those kind of feelings. That's exactly what you feel. What that feel is there. It's like, wow, where was this place all my life, And then when you do come back in this reality, I mean, when the reality of this dimension or this earth hits you, the weights are back. Only thing is, you had them off your back for so long that all of a sudden now you realize that, there is a force here that's not there.
Yeah.
It's shocking. It really, really is. Because when you do wake up, I mean, all right, so I had to go to the bathroom, but that was a whole another issue. And I was starving too. They gave me pancakes. But the thing was that, like, it's the weight of the world. You got to figure, what do we go through in a regular day? You know what I mean? You see idiots driving a car funny. That's one weight. You got a credit card bill. You got a mortgage bill. You've got 2 kids in school. You've got to feed this person. You got to make dinner. All of these things combined is that weight that's on your mind. When you get to the other side, all those responsibilities and all those weights are not there. The only thing that's there, and I say this a billion times, is love for every single person you've ever known in your life. And some of them even come back, or, you can meet, like I met my dad, but I didn't go that far to meet the rest. but it's all there. So anybody that says, "Oh well, I'm gonna die," I always laugh at them and I tell them, "Don't worry about it. It'll be great."
Yeah. But you know, like I do, until you have your own or in some realization, you're like, oh, I don't have a clue.
Yep.
But Bob, you bring up an interesting point, you know, because I always talk about the symbology of life. But I believe that you said, nope, it was 8 doctors. It was 8 doctors, not one, not two, not three, 8. To me, you know, eight's kind of symbolic from the top zero, metaphysical, integrated with the bottom zero of the physical.
Infinity. So
Yeah, yeah, it's side bit. Wait a minute, and then you were healing your body, your soul, your mind, and now you see why people are like, "Yeah, that's a tough planet to be on. It's heavy. It literally is heavy. That stuff will wear you down and tire you out." And a lot of us tend to survive life rather than live it, and that's not easy. But you know, in any way, with that, once you had that experience, did it change a lot of how you perceived your reality after that, or a lot of how you felt about your reality? Or
you
did it not
bet
make
your
it?
bippy. Like I said, you bet your bippy. Oh yeah, there was a lot of things that were different. I love mate was different to me. I mean, the word itself and the way we grow up in it with the word love, we don't understand it fully. You know, I mean, like as I said to you, I mean, it's not that I'm psychic at all, but I feel.
You are.
I feel now what people are thinking, what people are doing, what people are saying, going to say, where they're going to go, what they're going to do. I feel it. It's not something that comes from a mental anything or anything else. I just turn around to somebody and say, "Hey, this is going to happen to you," you know, whatever, and it does, one way or the other. Not crazy or anything else, but none of that stuff ever bothered me whatsoever. And that when before I went, when I came back with all these crazy things, and I say, "Oh, abilities." Somebody said to me, "Abilities," and I said to myself, "No, just Bob the crazy guy. That's all." You know, it's
That's
like, hey, that's what I came back. I came back more funny than I went.
and more expanded. Now you're in this world, but not of it. When you've
Right.
got that soul taste, like, oh, this is good. You know, I always say we live our entire life in one breath. When we come in, we breathe in. And when we go out, we breathe out. And your whole life experience is just the in between of that quick. And that's why I was like, Craig, yeah, huh? You're like, oh, is that right now? What the? And then most of us will tend to hold our breath, you know, energy wise in life, and then we get choked off. And then people don't know how to help us. So, in that way, we got to be able to help ourselves. But one other thing, Bob, you bring up is a very interesting dynamic of, you know, I saw my dad there and he wore the exact clothes that he had when he left. What if that was a little indicator to go, there are no goodbyes? Truly, it's only the oneness. And in this, the very familiar, you knew exactly, you remembered what he wore, and he's going to do that. And we could go on, but my thing is he came to you as dad for this life. I will guarantee you this is not the only life we've lived. And, you know, why do we not come back as another personality in person? Because it's the familiarity of our loved ones in this life experience. And I think that that's huge is when you can have that and in any way begin to heal your soul. That's powerful because people just sometimes need to know it can be done. You know, you get to a point, you're like, frick it, man, there's nothing else. And a lot of times when we get to that disempowerment, we're like, oh, I got the empowerment, all right, watch this. And they change that aspect. So it's those types of dynamics that you bring up an interesting point, which is the familiarity of our loved ones. And more likely he came to you around the same age, decently.
Yeah. And well, one thing in that I can say, and Craig, you probably heard this from people that you've spoken to too. The people that you meet on the other side. Now you figure now what my father did the morning before he passed away that afternoon. I can remember everything in detail, complete detail, before I went to the other side, before I met him. I, you know, it was like a day. It was October 23rd, 1961. That was it. That's all we knew. Now, 61 years, 60, from 1961 till now, 69 years ago, I can remember every single thing that happened, even to the wave when he went down the driveway in the car. Now, what kind of mind? You know, where did I get that? It's part of whatever they had, whatever the imprint was of that person or that father that I met was I have some of it in me still. I still have that feeling.
A soul lock, man. That's a soul blending to
What
go.
it is. Yeah.
Exactly.
Exactly. Now that's that's way out there.
Look who you're talking to.
Yeah.
We could go way out there too. Like, yeah, that's the point. You always sound like a nut job till it's validated. And like I do, Craig and Bob, is it takes some guts to stand before you going, hey, let's give you some information and insight. But when we're doing this work in the psychic medium, better be evidential. Bring through personalities, characteristics, what they'd say, how they'd say it, the way they would say it, instead of, and your loved ones, who the frick are they? We all have they. Let's be specific. And that's why I'm loving these scientific studies to go, it's either really good guesswork or something to this. And when we can do that in the practicality of spirituality, it sometimes, one, makes it a little bit more solid to go, well, there's some scientific method of this, so that must be something. And then the acceptance of the potential of that, and to start to live their life with that new perspective, kind of blending in. But you had it already, Bob. Did it change your perspective of other friendships or relationships after your experience on the other side?
You know what? It made them, every single one of them, more solid in a way. You wound up not doing anything partially. No, people are kind of sort of friends or this and that and the other thing, but it's always partial of something. People that come back from something like this, you're in 100% or not. You're black or white. I mean, it's very, very strange. Every single thing that you do is a positive thing in your life. If it's a negative thing in your life, and I've done this before, if it's a negative thing that you've done in your life, you go back and do it again to make sure you correct it. Even no matter what it is, I don't care what it is. I mean, I did it. There was something I did yesterday that I drove back and forth about 12. I'm 12 miles net away from here because somebody screwed it up for 3 years, and I was going to get it right yesterday. So that was it. I corrected one more thing that I had to correct. So
wow.
All of these things in your life, it makes you more sensitive to things that are around you, to things that other people, feel at the same time. It brings all these things in. When somebody turns around and says, I love you, say it again. I did this just 2 days ago. Somebody said, I love you. And I said, say that again. I love you. I said, no. Say it one more time. All right, I love you. I said, no, forget about it. Go away. It was like,
psych.
It was like, I know when you're like, hey, get out the violin. You know what I mean? Hey, but I'm serious. I mean, these kind of things, these are all sensitive things. And people, I mean, Craig doesn't know it, but I lost my son October 25th, 2 years ago. That's another person that I feel he's here. He's around. If I even the least have a doubt of something that I'm doing, he pops up. I'll just see him. That's all I will. He hasn't said anything yet. Maybe he just doesn't. Maybe he wants to talk to you, Jamie, not me.
Well, here's the thing, Bob. When you see him, do you physically see him or metaphysically, mind sight see him?
Metaphysically.
Okay.
Metaphysically. But like I said, I feel. So, I mean, it's like I feel him around. It's one of those kind of things. So it's very, very strange. Like Craig, like you were saying, like you had all those people that were, coming to bomb you over there. I mean, it's the same kind of thing, and that you feel it. It's there. It's real. But you have to open up your mind to the fact that these things do exist. That's why your films, being as true as they are definitely going to turn up, going to turn a lot of keys and a lot of doors.
Unlock that door to your consciousness, man. And that's the point. You're given the keys, your choice if you want to do it or not. And what's on the other side of that? So many of us bring ourselves into the home and we open the door and close it, but sometimes we're afraid to go outside and go beyond that threshold. For me, I'm like, really? Here we go. Just because I'm aware for myself that it is eternal life and we live that no matter what in other dimensions, other realities. But it's also the fact that for myself in doing this work and being more sensitive, and like you said, Bob, you feel it. To me, I always say that words are great, but words are the language of the mind and nothing but mere vibrational patterns in our ear knobs that we train ourselves to hear the patterns and apply meaning. feelings are the language of the soul, and vibrational patterns on the soul knobs. And one feeling is worth 1,000 words and then some. And not only that, you're saying, no, I feel this, but I also feel when he's around. That's a soul sensitization, man. Not just the mind. The mind's lovely. That's just a computer. The soul essence is what animates that computer in this physical body. That's powerful. Did you make an even stronger connection as you've been more confidently working with your son? Has it gotten a little bit more effective?
The only thing that I get out of that is, you know what? All right, take something out of the dryer and the static electricity whacks you. Okay,
Okay.
there is the feeling that I get when he's around. It's like static electricity.
Isn't that interesting?
That's exactly what it's like. Gives you a little tingle.
And so why do you think that's happening?
I would say more or less that because of the plain fact that the two souls are they were connected, and then at one time, and when they get close to each other, it's like taking two magnets and going zing. You know what I mean?
Amplified vibration of soul, that higher frequency. Go, whoo, I got the willy chilies, man. Perfect. And now you've got that feeling and that mind sight of when he's around. And then, you start to train when it feels like that's usually playing out. When they feel like this is who it is. You'll feel their soul print of consciousness. To me, that's what we are as a soul print, because we're like fingerprints. Unique. Nobody's the same. And that's how our loved ones know who and where we are out of almost 8 billion people. So, Craig, with this amazing documentary, and thank you for allowing me to be part of it. I'm honored and humbled. And with this documentary, what do you want to have people walk away from? What have you walked away from so far with a different perspective? What?
There's a lot of craziness going on in this world. And I don't want to come off as a do-gooder, but I think if people were made well aware of the afterlife, the life review, I think is really crucial to a lot of things. What do you want your life review to show you? You had an opportunity. You could have went this way or you could have went that way. And here you went this way, which wasn't the best choice. I know there's no judgment and everything like that, but I'm trying to raise my vibration. And I think that if people were made more aware of the life review and choices, I just want kindness. I just want better behavior. I think the materialism thing has just gotten way out of hand. There's a lot of, like we talked about suicides, there's a lot of social media pressure. There's a lot of division in the country. There's all this stuff going on. And I just think that after hanging out with those parents, they enjoy each other, And so that's what I want to do. I want to remind people about there is a life review, and think twice before you rip that thing off, harm that person, hurt that person. The things that you say, the things that you do, the actions you take. I think that I would like people to just be aware of. We're all trying to get, we're all trying to perfect ourselves, And so that's what I want. I want to see our vibrate. I made a bunch of a slate of faith films, and they centered around Christianity. And so I'm a numbers guy, and because I have to know about the marketing and everything like that. And I was really surprised at the pew polls. I don't know if you know what pew polls are. They're just basically the attendance of how many people are going to church. And since 2016 to 2018, it had come down 40%. We're talking mega churches and stuff. The attendance is down. Well, I think, I'm not really sure I know why it's happening, but on the other side of that graph was spirituality was going 40% up. So it's kind of the same thing to me, Buddhism, they're all kind of the same to me. But I think we're kind of I have an atheist friend, and he just doesn't have any trouble doing anything that's really questionable because he has no consequence. He thinks when he dies, he dies. So you might as well acquire as much wealth, get as many women as he can, yada, yada, yada. And it's just, I think people, if they were made more aware of, if they had an experience like Bob, it makes you think twice about all the actions you do every single day and how you treat other people. That's all I want. That's all I want is that, And I think with these documentaries, I think I was like, what am I going to, I want to make a series, a bunch of them. Because it was just going to be one documentary, and I'm like, no, I want to do more. And I was like, well, I don't know what they are. And then they come. There's so many different avenues of this, spiritual enlightenment.
And, I think that in being able to be a part of this and see other people that have been able to contribute in some way, I think brings a little bit of a variety of different perspectives. From the different psychic mediums, we all have our own tools and techniques, but the ability to have your own rules and regs and control, orchestrate this psychic medium stuff, because sometimes when people are starting to get in, it's like, oh, hey, and I'm like, you might want to put parameters around that because you are the end result of information. Why would you not put parameters around that type of dynamic? And so for this, because to me, everything is spiritual. It only holds the value we place upon it, kind of like I shared. But it's also that from within, that soul essence of who we are, that for me, I found that the more love, energy, attention, and compassion I give myself is no longer narcissism, it's self-realization.
Exactly.
We do not have, yeah. And so many of us tend to run on empty, and we're strong and I can survive it. But that becomes the challenge because they keep sending a vibration out of surviving, so they'll get more things to survive about. Like I do, those who talk about lack are living it, those who talk about abundance are living it, and you don't see successful people go around saying they're a failure. In addition, you kind of bring up an interesting point, Craig, going, look, this gentleman who doesn't even believe in God is standing right next to you, and the sun's still shining on both, the rains fall equally on all. You having to believe in God, to me, is like you telling yourself, you better believe in me. Really? You're them, they're you. What are you allowed to be? What they are. And when we get that cut, just like the natural effort of our body, instantly goes to heal. I can only speak for me, but I will tell you the universe is always, always for us and never, ever against us. It's doing this. What can I do for you? What can I do? What can I do? What can I do? And the challenge becomes, even though most of us have the right intent of what we want, we approach the universe with what we don't want. And what I mean by that is we all want abundance and we all want people who love us. But the average person approaches that when they're talking to the universe like this. I know what I don't want. I don't want to be broke. I don't want to be alone. And even though they have the right intent of people in abundance, they keep sending a signal. They're vibrating because everything's vibrations, light, energy, and frequencies to me. You just learn to read it. But you start vibing with that and to be able to hold that consistent pattern, which a lot of people do. But I also found that not only can you hold the pattern of challenging circumstances, you can hold the pattern of empowering circumstances. Because to me, nobody needs to be fixed. Nobody needs to be saved. Showing that power within, become more self-realized and begin to live life more and survive it. And in connection with that, Craig, just like you're doing, is it giving you a different perspective to see people's different perspectives differently? Are you able to kind of go, okay, as many worlds as there are perceivers, apparently, each just as real and just as valid. What has that done for you in addition?
Well, I think when anyone begins the spiritual path, they have an event that happens, then they start reading a book, and you start to learn more about how it all works. I am very fortunate. I'm completely blessed that I get to hang out with people for 4 hours, some of them all day, and really, it's just advanced my whole perspective so much that, because I think when you hear one opinion, I guess, if you want to say, and then you hear another one slightly different, you're able to put it all together. And I'm sure, Bob, you get that too. You get all these different perspectives, and you start to kind of become an authority figure of what this is all about. I mean, there's some things that really took me off guard. I mean, especially when worked on the third one. The third one should be out soon. I don't know. Amazon said it takes forever. They have so many movies. The third one,
It's worth the wait.
It's a specific subject about the pre-birth plan, and that Robert Schwartz is one of probably the biggest proponent right now alive that's really talking about the whole pre-birth plan. And that just blew my mind, because I started to think about if somebody planned to do not such a good thing for an experience, how can I judge that person? So I started really opening up into changing my ways quite a bit. I have some relatives that are treating another relative really badly, and I was really angry and everything like that. And now that I put it in a better perspective from these arena of spiritual experts, I just come to the conclusion, it's just like, who am I to judge their actions? I mean, maybe there's an experience there. And I believe when you go to the afterworld, that we in this earth have this ability to see opposites. If you're a white being in a white room, how do you see yourself? But when you can see right from wrong and immerse yourself into it, you learn. But when you're in the afterworld, we have to create these scenarios, and it's not quite the same as that immersion that Earth has. You really get the pain and suffering. If you harm somebody and you're sitting in prison for 20 years, you're thinking about it. You're immersed in that. You feel bad about it. And you actually start to change, maybe in this life. So.
And you bring up an interesting point, though. Go right ahead. I'm sorry.
No, so I think it's this. I'm just blessed that I get to talk and hang out with all these great people. I mean, I go to their houses, I hang out with them. I meet their dogs, and I meet all their guides, and their guides hang out with me, and it's kind of bizarre, That's why I guess maybe at some point in time I'll develop my psychic abilities better, but right now I'm just digging the ride. I mean, it's just different. These people are amazing people, and it's just like, boy, now I know why their book sells so well. Now I know why these guys are so in demand and cost so much to see them and stuff. It's I'm just blessed.
Well,
wait a minute, before he goes any further, Jamie, something you said, and you say it all the time. I mean, I could at least, let me see, we're together, 8 years almost?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
So in all those times, you know how many hundreds of shows are out with you and I in them. And every single one of them says exactly the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. We are all psychics.
Yes.
We are all psychics. We are all mediums. If you are in the right part of your mind and you let go of all the BS that's out there, and get that big peanut butter and jelly sandwich. You know what I mean? It's like, hey. And this is where you're going to be. This is where you're going to attract things, and you're going to know, and you're going to change, and you're going to change. Not that you think you're going to change, or not that you're going to know you're going to change, but you will change. I didn't know I did, but damn, I did. That's for sure.
When I first started out with the documentary series, I had touched with my spirit guides and said, just make sure I get the truth, make sure it helps people, make sure it's honest. And when I said honest, the most strangest things happens. When I know something's not right, my camera goes out of focus. And I'm looking at the edit going,
wow.
I never go in automatic. I always have a manual focus. But these cameras have electronic motors. So the spirit can actually tap in. Just make it go out of focus so the footage is unusable. And that's because I put out the prerequisite. I want the truth. And that was one thing that I found about some of the mediums. They're all different personalities. And a lot of that personality comes out in the way they discuss things. And that's the thing that was kind of interesting to me. Like some would go into more materialistic things. Some would go into this, some would go into that. But I could just feel their personality. And it really colors the what they say. So, but you see through all that,
Well, and
Jamie.
talking, yeah, you bring up an interesting point about the beautiful religions, because they're all allowed to be, but also that the adjustment, that it's going down 40% from the religions and the spirituality is increasing. I think I'm getting some of those people in a beautiful way, because over the past number of years, I am having so many people come to me from all of these different beautiful religions that their pain is outweighing their condemnation from the
Yeah.
big guy. And
The parents were the ones that, I mean, they just took me and they said, Craig, I knew I was going to burn in hell. I'm a devout Catholic, but I didn't care. I wanted to talk to my kid. And if I got to burn in hell to talk to my kid, I'm going to talk to my kid. And then they talk to their kid, and the kid's like, it's not quite like that, you know? So that's just crazy.
But not
Yeah.
only that, like I do, I believe that these beautiful religions tend to look down upon mediumship. That's a bad thing. And I just like to playfully share, going, well, first, congratulations for having enough guts to sit before me.
Yeah.
Two, let's just get a very basic meaning of mediumship. To me, a basic meaning is to consciously connect with a being, a spirit, an entity outside of a physical body. And be like, is that decent? Yeah, okay. So, with that very definition, if you talk to God, Jesus, the angels, you're doing mediumship. And I'm willing to bet with that particular style, you're hoping and praying for life changing miracles and instant communication. Now, Craig, you also brought up an aspect of the pre life agreements. Now, what if, as we've talked about, that potential of this person who's decided from the other side to have this life experience, and then other people in their soul group, out of love, out of compassion and unification, chose to come in and co create, playing their parts like this person wanted to learn their part through the one experience of unification? Have you seen more of that with people and their loved ones, their family? Have they made those connections psychic medium wise, and then that value, that solid knowingness that this stuff is real? Have you seen it possibly change people's family dynamics with the
You know,
way they would?
I think about the caretaker and the patient situation. Let's say a mother has a kid that's hit by a car. Now he's a quadriplegic, and the mother has to take care of him. So, from what I understand, those two souls, likelihood, probably set out to have this experience so the mother could be of service. And the kid maybe was to teach other people strength, courage, about fear, managing all these different things. But as far as, a lot of people don't really resonate with the pre-birth plan. It's pretty complex
Yeah.
because it,
Yep.
it basically it brings about, well, then nobody's a victim. You drop that bomb in the conversation. And see, I don't believe there is any victims. I think we plan everything. And I know that's really hard for a lot of people to wrap their head around. But once you do, it all makes sense. Everything makes sense then.
Well, and like I do, once you graduate, you're able to look back on this life experience as an experience. That's the point.
Yeah.
To me, the meaning of life is to live. And what? Where you want to go from here? But also in my aspect, I'm so honored and thankful for the past 20 years. This is all I do is the psychic mediumship. In addition, I have pulled from so much of my own life experience in earlier years to help other people. I help myself. I've lost a lot of the emotional attachment to the stuff that I had been living from, and began to see it a little bit more effectively, and lost that crazy, maniacal, frustrated, disempowered energy that I felt was happening to me. And,
Hmm.
in that process, you start to realize that it is the co creation. And I did learn from that experience. But not only that, to be able to help myself, I'm not stupid. I need the healing just like I give, and it's a win win. And when I can do that and help myself in my own life experience, I'm able to maybe share a little bit more insight of at least how I do it. And I think, like I do, the more that I know, the more I know. I don't know nothing, man, but I'll share my perspective. And sometimes from that different perspective, they're like, I've heard that crap 1,000 times, but click, the way you said that, that's the first time I see it like that. I'm going to try that. I'm going to give it a chance. I'm like, please do. Great. And you get the credit. I'm just the information. It's your choice if you want to listen or not. But to see so many people empower themselves, especially from these religions, because once they have that session, they're like, oh, yes, that's exactly them. That's what they'd say. That's how they said. And that was the very last thing that they said before they passed. And I'm like, great. I don't know you from anybody. And they're like, no, you don't. And I playfully go, so, it's either really good guesswork or, something to it. But that practicality of doing the scientific studies and all this stuff at least adds a little bit more of a base to go, well, at least they're scientifically working with it instead of, yeah, it's all spiritual and it's all, man, what? For me, those who know me say, always, always be skeptical about everything, question everything, just be open. That way you ain't one of them. There's a fine line between doing this work and the nut house. Don't kid yourself. There are some sane people in there. They just don't understand what's going on. I'm hearing voices. Guess what? I hear it all day long, and people seek me out. They don't fear me. To me, if you're comfortable with your modality or whatever it is, it will bring others a little more comfort. If you're freaked out, it's going to freak them out, is my point. Have you seen that rippling effect that maybe somebody who had a mental disorder in some way, that had a spiritual experience, and that might have adjusted their thought pattern, that focus of where they had been living for so long? Have you ever heard of that? Or is he on mute, Bob?
Yeah, I think he's on mute.
Sorry, I was coughing, so I wanted to just mute it. I forgot to unclick it.
Graciously.
In the third documentary, I met a wonderful woman. You know her, Rebecca. She was a paraplegic. She was blind, and she believes that she chose to do this, because what it did was it allowed her to become completely, reliant on herself and her ability to tune in. Now she's a healer. I asked her if she signed up for it, and she said yes. And I said, do you feel like you're a victim? She said, no, I'm empowered now. So she gave herself a super challenge. She overcame it. So it's really what you do with the challenge. That's what you take out of it. That's the most important thing.
Huge. And like I do, there's as many worlds as there are perceivers. And when each person in their own way can have that experience and maybe gain that wisdom of that, I've seen it change people's lives and relationships with other people. To go,
yeah. Rebecca said, when she had to face the whole thing of being a victim, it kind of forced her to really figure out a way to get out of the situation. And now she walks, and now she can see.
Yes.
But if she stays in that victim mode, it's difficult.
And not only that, on average, the average person may not even come out of that even close to what Rebecca did. And for her to go from the tragedy to the triumph of being able to help heal herself and empower others through that challenging circumstance, just like you're sharing, Craig, I think it can give people a slightly different perspective to go, I didn't really think of that maybe I had that kind of opportunity to learn life experiences more expectedly. Like, here, I'd like to learn this, and then that. And then, to me, to a certain extent, is certainly written out. But I also feel like there is that free key of experience. Meaning, to me, if everything is automatically, there and there's no then you have no choice. You're an autopilot, you're a robot. For me, they're like, oh, that wasn't supposed to be. And like, well, if you didn't make that silly decision, you wouldn't have gotten that. It's like, choose this other one. Have you seen people lighten up on the labeling or the way that they perceive psychic mediums a little bit more recently? With your documentaries, have you gotten feedback? Are they more receptive?
Oh, yeah. I think I think the whole thing about it's being said in the Bible is that you'll burn in eternal fire if you speak to a person that portrays themselves as one that can speak to the dead for a sum of money. I think that was misconstrued, I think.
Yeah, well, and again, to be able to do this 24/7, I have to pay the bills. I'm not silly. I have always helped others, and I always will. But for me to be able to do this professionally, I needed to be able to have something so that I could do this. I'm not going to be
I didn't.
effective.
Yeah, no, I didn't mean it like that. I just meant that part of the Bible has really been misconstrued.
Yeah, of course. And I think that we're allowing ourselves to get our insights and spiritual experiences that are giving us a different perspective on those beautiful religions and all the ways that they were presented. Craig, can you give the viewers an opportunity? How can they get a hold of you? Other information, other documentaries? Where would you like to share them and show them to?
Uh, you mean where would they find them? The documentaries?
Yes, sir. And other projects, other things that you've done, anything that you would like to have people get a
Well,
hold of you.
yeah. I mean, you could just put in my name, Craig McMahon, at Amazon, and a lot of the work will show up. And there's a Vimeo channel that I'm working with because there's a lot of interest in other countries now, getting a big following in Australia, and so that's kind of cool, and Canada as well. But those are not Amazon United States; those are Vimeo. It's a great site, good quality video.
Craig, I'd like to have you on again at another time. You open for that?
Sure,
Oh, we
yeah.
have so much more to talk about.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Got
And one thing I want to tell everybody too, Annette, when you're looking for Craig, this is how you do it. All you do is you go into your search engine that's in your Google, and you put in Craig McMahon. That's let me see if I can spell that for you. And if I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong. McMahon.
Yes, that's
Add in,
it.
put a hyphen, then put Amazon. When you put
hyphen.
Amazon, you get them all. That's how I got them. And it's very, very easy to do. And if you can't do it, hey, throw the computer out.
And in doing this work, and it can get fairly solemn, it can get very there. It's really great because Craig and I have been able to. Craig has put together a couple of bloopers, of us talking, and Lordy, he is so patient, man. For the first one that we put out, literally, I just go off on my tangents. He graciously sat there straight faced for 20 minutes. 20, just.
I saw one of them. Jamie sent me one of them. It was good. What'd you do? Put it on like 180?
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. Yeah, he had to.
Yeah, I had to speed it up because no one's gonna sit through. The whole part of it was, are you ready? You ready to do this kind of thing? Because he was just, the cameras are rolling, we're all ready to go, and he was talking about something else. And, no one knows what he's talking about because they didn't hear the question.
Yeah, well, and the funny thing is, it's just great. It's hilarious because, with the spiritual stuff, sometimes it's a little different and it can be fairly heavy. But when we can have fun, we're just doing us. And that's all I know how to do is be me. But when you can have that and you vibe nicely and you've got those interactions and the sharing of insight and tools and techniques, that's powerful. And I feel like, people will start seeing you and feeling you a little bit differently, Craig, in a way that it is about the empowerment. It is about the insight that you can share to help other people to help themselves. That's power.
There is one thing that I'd like to say. When you get this spiritual stuff into the public arena, I have found out that a lot of the religious groups, pay for trolling. And I was really surprised that people that actually do that. But, churches make a lot of money, and they want to discredit the spiritual world. So if you like the documentaries, please talk about it. Give it a rating, if you like it. Most people just like it and they go away.
Good idea.
It helps everyone. And ladies and gentlemen, if you are open for that, it will only help better this.
Yes.
It gives more of a receptive energy for people.
I feel that there's going to be a genre, just like action, comedy, there's going to be a spiritual, because now there's the paranormal, all those shows, but there's no genre yet for this kind of thing. So I want to create that genre so other people can do it. More experiences could come in, and we could all learn from it.
In our own spiritual evolution, man, that's huge. We're always those growth-seeking beings. Craig, I want to thank you very much for being on and sharing with us. And again, I'll definitely have you on again. And I'm looking forward to working with you even more in way I can for these documentaries. Awesome job, brother.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Bob. Appreciate it.
Alrighty.
Always great. Lots of love.
Jamie, Craig, thank you very much. And remember, you're on Pyramid One Radio Network. All around the world. Bob Charles says, God bless y'all. Bob Charles.